Peace and love. Welcome back, everybody. This is video two, part two. We continuing on where we left off last time. I was reading through the Women's Dictionary, the symbols and sacred objects. A book I had for a very long time. If you watch my old videos, you know I've had this book for probably, I don't know, 15 years. uh, I talked to y'all about how I'm building a pyramid. So even this YouTube channel is a pyramid. It's getting better over time. Hopefully, people are enjoying things and learning something. And it's so many magical moments. Sometimes I just spend actually experiencing the moment, and it's like I don't even capture it. Like people tell me, "Hey, why don't you take videos and pictures of this and this and that?" And it's like I don't even take pictures. I rarely take pictures of my children. I'm literally with them all the time, but I'm not that tight. But I'll snap a picture here and there, for the sake of having it. But I really be in the moment. It's nothing like a memory. Pictures can be destroyed. If memories last forever, but if they do begin to be destroyed, I mean, a picture not really gonna help that. Think about someone with Parkinson's; they can't even remember the sun face that they just seen, 2 minutes ago. People with dementia or brain degenerating diseases. So memory is everything until you don't have it, and then after that, it's just spirit. So who cares? But I do want to try to, share more moments. Moments when I'm in the woods, moments when I'm on the mountain that I'm a guardian of, spiritual guardian of, moments when I'm meditating, moments when I'm toning and vibrating, and so that people can see that this is what I do. Full time herbalist, full time father, a Baba who's teaching my children everything I know, and a full time seeker of truth and enlightenment. Um, we're gonna continue off. Last time we read about gnomes, and we're continuing this reading. So today we're gonna be talking about chaos 336. Okay. We're gonna read, and sometimes maybe not all the reading is actually dealing with the elements, but there's some portion in the reading that's gonna deal with the elements, and I think I make a spiritual judgment on whether I want to continue to start reading the whole thing or just read a section of something. But we're gonna read about chaos. The classical concept of chaos defined what the world was before creation. And yes, this is very important. All the elements mixed in a homogenized mass, neither fluid nor solid, neither hot nor cold, nothing differentiated from anything else, a universe of no form. That's the beginning. Everything come from one, but it was one homogenized things, a mixture of nothing's defined, This was the stage of the great goddess. This is why the goddess, I got a area just for the goddess, over here, just for the goddess, because I found that when I tapped into the goddess, I really began to have some real good experience. Watches over me. The goddess watches over me, directs me. It's like, you know, I got my male deities, and then I got my female deities, or I have my masculine deities and my feminine deities, and they both guide and instruct me in different ways. Of course, Ganesha is someone that taught me something, came to me literally and literally showed me vast amounts of knowledge. So I do hold a special place in my heart for Ganesha because I've learned things that no book can teach, and even things that books can teach. And when I was having conversing with Ganesha, there was things that I learned that I later went back and researched, and they were true. So that's how I know that there is something going on when you communicating with the divine. Otherwise, how would I be able to learn something in the trance and then come back and find out it's true. But once again, everyone passes different. Continuing. This was the stage of the great goddess. Tantric sages said when she was the primordial ocean of blood, the generative womb of all, the deep, in her condition of dark formlessness, when she possessed all things in potential only, when there was neither the creation nor the sun, the moon, the planets, and the earth. And when darkness was enveloped in darkness, then the mother, the formless one, Mahakali, the great power, was one with Mahakala, the absolute Egyptians called the great mother in the condition Timu, the deep, or Ma'a. She produced the first elements of existence, which were water, darkness, night, and eternity. Timu became the Babylonian goddess Tiamat and the Hebrew Tehom, the deep, mentioned in Genesis as the original condition of the universe when it was without form and void and darkness. But the spirit that originally floated over the dark waters of chaos was female. Okay. The god Marduk of a Babylonian prototype of Yahweh, divided the waters which were under the firmament from waters which were above the firmament by splitting his mother Tiamat in two parts, opening her watery body by means of winds, air, killing her, and creating the world out of her parts. Patriarchal translations of the myth tend to describe Tiamat as the dragon of chaos, slain by the heroic Marduk, ignoring the fact she gave birth to him and all the other gods. However, the chaos mother, that goes into the demiurge, that goes into the garden, because the really, when you think about the demiurge, there's some ancient stories. When you think about the demiurge, and then which is the creator of this physical universe, who they said stole light and then tried to hide it, and then and it's here creating, don't even know that it's actually created by something else, but it's down here mastering everything. You got the Garden of Eden, which was, where men had came out of when we was in perfect peace, no differentiation between, naked and unnakedness, good and evil. There was no differentiation. There was just one. Then to the stories about Pep, and when you get into the creation of this world, where that was the first act. We the first thing we did was came out here, and we that was the mistake. And then ever since, everything we do is to try to fix the action that we took before it. We came out, things got unbalanced, we created something to make a balance, to rebalance it, but that created five more issues, so we had to create 10 more things or five more things to create a balance within those things. And now it's branching out into a tree of infinity. Our everything we do now is trying to fix the original step of coming out of the darkness, out of chaos. All right. Very contemplating thing, very good things to contemplate. So, however, the Chaos Mother never really died, because most myths said she would come back to reclaim the world and all its gods at doomsday. She would swallow them up, return them to her matrix of formlessness, and eventually recreate the universe. I'm all for recreation now. I'm all for getting back into darkness. I'm all for the path of light. I'm all it's all the same, man. All the stories the same. Every story is good and evil. There's the antagonist, this yin and yang play going on. Continuing, I hope these words are reaching you. Maybe you're learning something new. Maybe you're refreshing on something that you learned in the past, but we're going to continue on reading. All of this is to get us immersed into the elements, how they came to be, so that we can ultimately get into using these elements. All right. All right. Now we're going to be reading about the lotus. Okay. Before creation, the Hindus said all the world was a golden lotus, Matri Padma, the mother lotus, womb of nature. In Egypt, the great goddess was called the lotus, from whom the sun was born. At his first rising in China, the golden flower of mystical quest was the same female symbolic lotus, just as in the Western Europe. The lost female symbolic grail became an object of quest. The Egyptian lotus was identified with Hathor, the Indian lotus with Lakshmi, or the goddess Padma, whose name means lotus. Everywhere the lotus goddess was a yoni that devoured the sun god to become his matrix and give him daily birth. And when we was reading about the chaos and how Marduk split, I'm thinking about intercourse. How a man comes and splits the legs of a woman, and that waters. I mean, to create. I mean, it's the yoni creation, and devouring the man, swallowing him up. I mean, it's everything is there, bro. It's like plain as day, and you can see it. It's this is the amazingness of creation and of searching the path of light. Because even though like this is a this is maybe advanced or simple for some, but you see this everywhere. There's a connection between this knowledge you learn in every single thing that's going on in your life and that's going on on this planet and in this universe and in this galaxy and this whole creation. Continuing, everywhere the lotus goddess was a yoni that devoured the sun god to become his matrix and give him daily rebirth. It was said of the Egyptian pharaoh upon his death that he was united with the lotus. In the Middle East, the primal lotus was Lilith, named from the Lilu or lotus. She could be identified with both the Egyptian goddess and with India's mother Kali, to whom the lotus was also sacred. In fact, Kali was one of Lilith's other names. Bearing bud, bloom, and seed pod together, a lotus is Virgin Mother Chrome. All right, here we're getting into the elements. This is why I actually reading this section. The lotus was often taken as a symbol of all four of the classical elements, indicating the primal condition before creation when all these elements were united in the cosmic womb. Earth is the mud in which the flower is rooted. Okay. Hey, earth is the mud in which the flower is rooted. Water, the surrounding support of the stalk. Its blossom is said to partake of the essence of the air, releasing its perfume into the breezes. And its fertility is drawn from the fire of the sun. All the elements, right? This is the symbology of the lotus. It's the four elements, and look around you. I mean, it's inside your body, all the elements. It's outside of you, the house, yeah, everything you can see the elements. A car has the four elements. Everything has the four elements. It can be broken down. You can see it. Continuing. The red lotus stands for Mother India. The illustration shows a stylized lotus in the left hand of a Persian king who holds the rod or scepter of his own virality in the right hand, representing his own union with the goddess. Later rulers employed the same symbolism in the combination of the scepter and orb. On a red figure amphora of the 4th century BC found in Apulia, the female Omphalos, rising from an 8-petaled base resembling the Saivite lotus throne, which always represents the female yoni. There it goes, man. So you gotta tap into that. That's that picture of that hand holding that lotus as a scepter, right? Tap into the goddess, man. Tap into the goddess. All right. Now we're gonna read about the tree of life. When I'm led to speak on something, I'll speak. If I'm not led, I'm going to continue. The tree of life. That's funny because, all right, this one is going to be a pretty long read. And so we're going to get started. It's funny because I just had a little pamphlet that I was cleaning out today, and it was about the tree of life, and I decided I was going to read that with my children. Well, children are not too young to get this knowledge because they're not too young to be bombarded by attacks from phones and the internet and advertisements and tones and tunes and music and peer pressure and All the evils of the world attack them, so why not learn all the goodness of the world? My children are very stable in themselves, and it's the knowledge that stabilizes them. I teach them, to follow their own heart. I'm just giving them knowledge, and they're gonna eventually have to choose their own path in life, and that won't be my choosing. It'll be theirs. They have their own life to live. All right, we're gonna go into the tree of life. It's a little bit long read, so we're gonna get to it. Many myths speak of the tree of life or world tree that was somehow involved in the creation of the universe, the origin of humanity, and the divine gifts of nourishment and civilized skills. The Maya called it first tree of life, tree of the world, first tree of the world, or green tree of plenty, growing in their own territory on the Yucatan Peninsula. Those who faithfully kept the rituals would go after death to the paradise shaded by the first tree. It was represented in the form of a cross, and the Savior God was crucified on it as our Lord of the tree. His head wore a tree crown, and his arms ended in branches. Martyrdom, an essential element in the myths of most major gods, was usually associated with some version of the tree. Odin hung on the world tree Yggdrasil to undergo death and resurrection before he could achieve full godhood, which, by the way, depended on his acquisition of originally feminine knowledge. I tell you, man, everything is feminine, really. Anytime you beautify yourself, that's feminine. You want to look good, you going and brushing your hair, that's feminine. It's not to say that that's just feminine. It's okay though, because you are a being that is whole, which is a mixture and a homogenized being of masculine and feminine energies, and you're supposed to learn how to balance these energies to create a full being. That's the true path of enlightenment. But even there, feminine and masculine can blur and become something totally different. Attis died on the tree. Osiris, in his dead phase, was enclosed in the tree. Men embodying the Saxon god were sacrificed to the goddess Andaste by hanging on trees. The tradition continued in Christianity. Acts 5:30 and 1 Peter 2 and 24 say that Jesus hung on the tree, not a cross. Other Christian authorities insisted that Jesus' cross was identified with the biblical tree of life. The cross was planted in exactly the same spot and was made of the original tree's actual wood, which had been miraculously preserved for this very purpose. The church continued to claim that literal truth of this doctrine for many centuries. The church continued to claim the literal truth of this doctrine for many centuries. What is not often realized about this world tree or tree of life is that it was assigned a female gender and was regarded as an all nourishing, all giving mother. Apparently, the blood shed on it and solemn sacrifice was intended to help maintain the life force of the tree, on which all other life depended. For example, the tree of Odin sacrifice had alternate names like Majotvir, Vidir, or Majovidir, meaning either mother tree or mead tree. Like the milk giving mother tree of the Finns, it brought forth life, the first man and woman of the new universe. Moreover, its fruit magically facilitated childbirth, and the triple goddess dwelt in its roots in the form of the three Norns. This tree was the source of unborn souls. In Persia and India, the world tree was depicted with five branches. Here, this is the reason why I'm adding this particular part in here for this particular section. In the Persian and India, the world tree was depicted with five branches, holding the elements of creation: water, earth, air, fire, and ether. A goddess of the tree was worshipped as early as 2000 BC in the Indus Valley, where the tree was called the source of all mantras, hence of creation. The tree gave the gift of language to humanity, having a different letter or mantra written on each of its leaves. This concept was perhaps not unrelated to the tree of the Druidic tree alphabet. I got a book on that too. Um, I believe the Tree of Magic, the Celtic Tree of Magic. I started reading this. I haven't finished it. but I didn't really read it to actually get. I was looking for a particular tree. Um, I'm very connected to cedar trees. Cedar trees. I have a very deep connection with cedar trees. My favorite tree is a cedar. Um, Other myths credited the goddess Kali with the invention of the Sanskrit alphabet, showing that she was in some sense interchangeable with the tree. Medieval Europeans believed in the continued existence of the wonderful tree of life in a spot in the Orient that was paradise with a fountain flowing forth in four rivers. But even the tree of life, when you think about it, because once again, everything is comes from the beginning, 7-Eleven. I just picked up my phone. I don't have no time sequence, but 7-Eleven, right? It turned 12. It's all good. I'm always in the mode, right? Always in the mode. The tree of life is just like the beginning of the waters with the mother. It's from which all things flow. The elements, the fire, the air, the earth, the water, the ether. All right. And these things come and manifest themselves in many ways. In many ways. And that's the beauty of these five elements. Really, that's all I'm gonna be reading out of this particular book. That's all I had on my list to read. And so now I'm gonna be reading more from this book, which is a lot more heavier. This heavier reading in here. This is the book, "The Secret Teachings of All Ages" by Manly P. Hall. Yes, I read this entire book from cover to end. Um, I don't read for memory. I read for awareness, exposure, because that's what we need. We need awareness and exposure. It's okay if you don't remember everything. This stuff becomes a part of me, and really, you'll be surprised how much you remember it when someone poses a question to you, because that's how it is for me. I became surprised at how much knowledge I have, which always lets me know that I had to continue to make these videos, because maybe if it's just one person that see it, it's still someone that can learn something, send them on a path like so many have sent me on paths before. So even if it's just one person, it's some knowledge that is here for people to gather, ponder, and help them on their journey of enlightenment. But this book, I will say, is very, 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 very deep. And honestly, you know, this, these books, you know, it's super deep. We're gonna kind of gloss through some things. The one of the main things I want to talk about here, we're on the plutonic solidments and elements. Um, the five symmetrical solids of the ancients is added to the sphere. So we have the y'all know about the five platonic solids, right? One, the most perfect of all creation forms. That's the circle, right? And I'll show you these. Two, with four equilateral triangles as faces. All right, that's the tetrahedron. Okay. Um, you got the tetrahedron, the octahedron, the dodecagon, or the decahedron, icosahedron, and I think the hexahedron. That's all of them. Um, yes, tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. So we got one, the perfect. This is number one, the most perfect form created is the circle. Then we got two. This is the equilateral triangle. This is the equilateral triangle. And then we got the cube, which is three, with six squares as faces. Then we got the octahedron, four with 8 equilateral triangle faces. And then we got the icosahedron, 5, with 20 equilateral triangles as faces. And then the dodecahedron with 12 regular pentagons as faces. Y'all gonna see that um, it should be here too that let's see, these elements, these particular shapes all have a connection with the 5 elements. So we have air as the octahedron, we have earth as the hexahedron, which is also a cube, and then we have fire, the tetrahedron, the triangle, and then we have water, the icosahedron, and then we have ether, the dodecahedron. All right, so that's important because you can, once again, once I get to this part, I'll be showing you how you can combine all these this knowledge into something very, very special to help you get in tune with these elements. So let's see here. Give me a second. We're gonna start here. Now, the Greeks believed the world, the material universe, to be composed of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, water. And to the Greek mind, the conclusion was inevitable that the shapes of the particles of the elements were those of the regular solids. Earth particles were cubical, the cube being the regular solid possessed of great stability. Fire particles were tetrahedral, the tetrahedron being the simplest and hence lightest solid. Water particles were icosahedral for exactly the reverse reason, whilst air particles, as intermediate between the two latter, were octahedral. The dodecahedron was, to these ancient mathematicians, the most mysterious of the solids. It was by far the most difficult to construct. And it's true that the dodecahedron is very difficult to construct. I even actually constructed one that I keep around. And it so basically this is the dodecahedron that I created out of popsicle sticks, and then I actually painted it gold with spray paint. But this is the biggest shape. Like, I used the same, I couldn't make this with the same things I've made all the other ones with, because it would not stay together. I had to literally I made all the platonic solids out of wood. And I had to make this one with this big because the shape would not hold together. It was very difficult to make the shape. So I had to reinforce it by doubling up the the popsicle sticks to make an edge, to make the line. Okay. But I just wanted to show y'all that. I just sit this here on the side. I wanted to show y'all that just to show y'all how difficult it is. I got 1 minute and 20 seconds. Um, I'm working on time here, so I guess I'm not going to be able to continue. I finished this. The dodecahedron was the ancient math, the most mysterious of the sides. It was by far the most difficult to construct. The accurate drawing of the regular pentagon necessitates a rather elaborate application of Pythagoras' great theorem. Hence the conclusion, as Plato put it, that this, the regular dodecahedron, the deity employed in tracing the plane of the universe. I got 50 seconds, and that's pretty much that all I wanted to get on this one. It was just, connecting the uh, platonic solids. As you can see here, these are the platonic solids over here. Just these 5, and then the circle is there as the first form. And then you can see the triangle is the first shape you can make. It takes you into the 3rd dimension. You could go study these things on your own for more deep, in-depth mysteries. This was video number 2. I'll be back with another video. I'll keep making it. I can only make them 30 minutes long. I hope you learned something. I'll see you on the next one. Peace, love, and light.